webinar, Enhancing Data Quality for J.D. Edwards and Enterprise Systems. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises Americas, and I'm joined today by Orgat, a Senior Consultant here at Magic Software. Welcome, Or.
Hi, Glenn.
And welcome to each of you on today's webinar. This is a very interesting topic for those of you who are currently using the Magic-XPI integration platform, as well as those who are new to the Magic-XPI integration platform. We will be showing that in the demonstration at the second half of today's webinar and how that can be applied to today's topic. But I think the topic will be interesting even to those who are not current customers or using this particular solution, as there's some certainly capabilities that are going to be universal and principles that are going to be universal. If you have questions at any time, please feel free to enter them into the chat box or the question and answer box, and we will answer those at the end of today's session. So with that introduction, let's go ahead and begin looking at the topic of data quality for J.D. Edwards. And when we're talking about data quality, we're primarily talking about things like data duplication and all of that. It reminds me of the film A Few Good Men, when Jack Nicholson, shouted in the courtroom, "You want the truth," right? That's sort of the question that IT departments are saying, is we want the truth. We want the true version of the data. We want accurate data. We want quality data. And there are some challenges around that. There are, unfortunately, too many versions of the truth sometimes in our IT environments. As much as we want to have a sole source of truth, we have ERP systems and CRM systems and mobile applications and e-commerce platforms and product lifecycle management platforms and all sorts of other things that have versions of data that are actually referencing the same real-world entity, or object. And so it is can be ambiguous at times which reference is accurate, or if there are more than one instance, or if these in fact are duplicate pieces of data that are need to be synchronized or deduplicated in some way. So it's been said, unfortunately, that with all of that data and all of those versions, that a la Jack Nicholson, we can't handle the truth. But I think IT departments can. I think we can get it together. There are a lot of different ways to do that. One of the great solutions for J.D. Edwards customers is the Magic-XPI integration platform, because it's so ideally suited to the J.D. Edwards environment and the typical users in terms of the size of IT departments and so forth for J.D. Edwards as well. And so with Magic-XPI, we will be talking later in our demonstration about that, but how you can really do all of the flow control, the routing, the error handling and recovery, the storage of operational data, the logging and monitoring of activities, scheduling of activities, and event handling, publish and subscribe, and so forth. So you have a lot of logical control over your processes for integration and your business processes in general. Where this becomes very interesting is when we start marrying that with data quality capabilities for J.D. Edwards, because we can then automate processes and we can deal with data quality issues as we integrate between systems before they become a problem. And we can find that there are some excellent tools and options for doing that. Well, first of all, primarily in integration, a lot of people are thinking about transactional data, and transactional data, can come from all of these systems as well. But for the most part, what we'll be looking at today is really the question of master item data and duplication of data there, because transactions, by their very nature, there can be multiple transactions. But there's only one Glenn Johnson. There's only one Orgat. And even though there might be other ways of spelling our names, or there might be other ways of other people with the same name, there's only one of us, right? So that's what we want to do, is make sure that we have that kind of uniqueness and of the data. Now, master item data, as it relates to customer data, is one of the key areas as well. So not only product, but also customer-related data. And when we look at master item data for customers, quite often, of course, we're getting involved in terms of J.D. Edwards with the address book, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to integrate that, to map information from one system to another. Maybe the CRM user has generated a new business opportunity with a new prospect, a new customer, and that suddenly information needs to be automatically mapped over to J.D. Edwards. That makes sense, but what if they already exist in the system? How do we know it's a new customer? How do we know it's not just a slight change in spelling and that kind of thing? So these are the types of issues that begin to come up that we need to address, and we'll talk about how to do that. Product data is, of course, another big area, and all of these systems can deal with product data as well. And the master item data synchronization and deduplication that needs to take place there can save companies a lot of money. We've cited many surveys and analyst reports on this subject in the past in terms of the business value, but in terms of technically how it's done, there are, from a table standpoint, there's a lot of complexity to this on the J.D. Edwards side, but there are ways to deal with that complexity at a higher level than having to write, a lot of, programs in, C or Java or RPG or any sort of lower level type language. And so by working at a higher level, we can minimize the effort for an IT department and really bring it up to the business analyst level, working with the DBAs and so forth in the organization versus the tendency to throw it all towards a programming team that's going to be, really under enormous pressure because of the large amount of complexity related to this. So with Magic-XBI, you get a visual approach to integration that has some real-world advantages, and that allows you to make selections in a visual manner based on having created a visual flow, and so you can sort of drill down or to configure any of the things that you'll see in Magic-XBI, and we'll point that out in the demonstration, how you can do the data mapping, how you can streamline all that complexity. So with XPI, you're orchestrating business processes. You have a code-free approach to doing that we often call visual drag, drop, and configure, creation of your integration business processes. That logic is all reusable, service-oriented, allows you to introduce this element of data quality, and we'll talk specifically about how that can be disambiguated, and then it's done in an extremely robust environment, one that leverages XPI's in-memory computing environment. So with the process orchestration, it's very workflow-based. It's very metadata-driven when we're in terms of talking about code-free integration. Our business flow editor is where you get that drag-and-drop functionality. The benefits of that reusability come in that you can have deployment of multiple projects. You can have new extensions to existing solutions. Data quality helps you to eliminate those duplicate records. And as we said, that in-memory data grid or in-memory computing approach provides you with that scalability. So more specifically to the data quality component of what we're talking about here then for J.D. Edwards, what Magic-XPI can do for you is bring in a MatchIT component, just as you have a component for ERP system, your CRM system, your PLM system, and so forth. You can also have a component for the data quality software, and that brings data quality into all of your business processes. So it's very exciting for those of you that are using Magic-XPI or considering use of Magic-XPI, because you suddenly gain this additional benefit of a really powerful data quality solution right there inside of Magic-XPI. So Magic-XPI's MatchIT component and the MatchIT hub that the component addresses do a number of things. First of all, it's deduplicating large databases and data sets up to extremely large sizes. It's giving you that drag, drop, and configure simplicity from Magic-XPI, and it happens very fast due to processing entirely in memory. The MatchIT hub is an in-memory solution as well as the Magic-XPI solution, so we're talking about scalability on both ends, and the hub scales very efficiently, processing very high volumes of data. It obviously is designed for some big data scenarios, if you will. And it maximizes the number of matches that can be automated for batch processing, so that you're finding large numbers of, you can deal with large numbers of matches. You can also deal with large data sets themselves. And it processes individual records and enables streaming of that data for real-time matching as well. So there's some key functionalities in that MatchIT component. First of all, it gives you the ability to do intelligent fuzzy matching of data. And we'll talk a little bit about what we mean by fuzzy matching, but I think most of you are probably familiar with the concept. It gives you the ability to match at multiple levels simultaneously, so you can find person matches, family matches, company matches, location matches, etc. And then it also accomplishes things like name splitting, genderization, salutation generation, and so forth, so that the differences in those can be dealt with, and provides some data standardization and casing standardization approaches. It helps you to screen for, just bad records, garbage, incomplete or poor quality data. Any company website that has forms on it for customer input is probably going to have some of that kind of, garbage data that's collected. And there could be other reasons for that as well, of course. You also have the ability to drag and drop the MatchIT component into XPI flows, making it very easy to configure at a dialog box level. And then, of course, there's all the monitoring capability of the data quality processes through the Magic-XPI monitor as well. So data quality is something that includes, data deduplication, data validation, and data cleansing. And depending upon your particular concerns, you might be needing to address different aspects of this urgently. And the Magic-XPI component is utilizing the MatchIT hub, which is by a software company called Help IT Systems, as a component. And it becomes part of a business process within the Magic-XPI flow. So suddenly data quality is a step in your Magic-XPI flow, and you have the opportunity to perform the deduplication that you need to do. And it has very advanced algorithms for this high degree of accuracy with fuzzy and phonetic matching and so on, and we'll talk specifically about some of those. It also is going to reduce your master data management costs with your transactional data, because you're dealing with it on a per instance basis, dealing with it up front as you're integrating rather than after the fact. So you're basically never bringing in the bad data because you're constantly checking for it, rather than doing it after the fact, cleansing data on a monthly basis or something like that. You can do it with each instance of your Magic-XPI integration flow, so that every piece of data that comes in is checked to make sure it's not a duplicate. And obviously people try to do that at all times to avoid duplication, but having a really powerful tool that can apply matching strategies, such as the ones that we'll mention here, is what really is the key difference and the key enhancement for many of you. So first of all, it does parsing and restructuring. So it allows you to identify and relocate data to the correct field, and it's splitting unstructured names into component parts and so forth. So as an example, it relocates names in the address lines, so that the name goes into the name field and the address line is in the address field and so forth. And we've all seen a lot of databases, I know I see it all the time, where somehow or other everything gets off, a column or off a field for whatever reason. It will allow you to split the town, the county, in postcodes. There's just no standard way internationally that people think about entering that information, and so it can often get messed up. And so the parsing and restructuring can restructure that data for you, and then it can split prefixes and forenames and surnames and last names and things like that, so that if you have some challenges there, it does that. Now, phonetic matching, of course, is what most people think of when they think of data duplication. It allows you to convert fields into their phonetic equivalents and compensate for various phonetic misspelling that occurs. Shore and shar sound the same. I can't even pronounce it like if I'm from Boston, but they do. To some people, they sound the same. Silva and silver have a similar sound. Ball and Bailey, they kind of sound different, but they might be considered a match, by some pseudo-phonetic matching algorithms, right? Well, element matching is also an approach, and it matches names with elements that are missing or reversed. So, like Dr. John Doe and John Doe, DCH, and Doe John are all understood to be possible references to the same individual. And then there are various name lexicons that help you to cope with abbreviated forms of names, nicknames being the most common: Bill and William, Elizabeth and Betty, so on and so forth. The other elements of the matching strategies that are employed with the data quality processes that you need to be after are things like acronym and initial matching, which allows you to handle inconsistencies between names that arise from acronyms and initials. Think of the Department of Water and Power and DWP, for example, or Tony and A, Tony Layton and Mr. A. Layton, Anthony Layton, and so those are referencing the same person, perhaps. So we need to look at that. Business word identification is another kind of key thing. There are a lot of keywords in a business name that can be similar and need to be evaluated. The Legal and General Assurance Society Limited matches legal and general. Auto and motors are equivalent, perhaps. Bijouterie and jewelry are equivalent, and so on. You have non-phonetic fuzzy matching, so the ability to detect and resolve common typing or spelling errors that have nothing to do with the sound of the word, but maybe keyboard proximity or just really bad spellers or that don't have any idea how the word should go, but often it's typing errors. So Wilson, Whistling, Wilson without the O, Morton and Horton, where we just missed a key there, and they don't really sound exactly the same, but and wouldn't necessarily be considered a phonetic match, but they could be typographic or non-phonetic fuzzy match. So you have standardized strings and words to deal with as well for matching strategies. So you want to match data in multiple languages sometimes and recognize the same string with a different order. So a good example would be the city of Brussels and Bruxelles. The spelling in different languages is going to cause you to have a mismatch unless you use some sort of matching strategy. You might also have various forms of street and Strasse and abbreviation for Strasse and so forth, and I believe that's German. So there are a number of different strategies that need to be applied. Now there are benefits, obviously, to improving data quality as a result of applying those matching strategies and eliminating and finding duplicates. You have some, using this particular hub, you're going to find that it's very easy to connect. There's an excellent performance based on the in-memory computing. You're going to start getting a single customer view. You're avoiding those manual deduplication processes, which are very time-consuming and costly due to the cost of labor. You're going to improve accuracy, finding dupes more accurately, being able to work with massive data sets, jobs that probably been put off in the past or just avoided because it just seemed impossible, are now possible dealing with these large data sets. And you have a very simple implementation of this in Magic-XPI Studio, as we'll show you in the demo. And this is also a very affordable solution based on the Magic-XPI component and the MatchIT hub. So with that, I am going to go ahead and share the control here with Or so that he can actually provide us with a demonstration on our topic today. So Or, you have control. Looking forward to your demonstration.
Thank you, Glenn. So, hi everyone. As Glenn mentioned, my name is Or. I'm part of the professional services team here in Magic US, and I've prepared a demonstration for you about the capabilities of the MatchIT component as part of a Magic-XPI process. Now, we've done quite a few webinars over the year, and you can find the information about how we write a process or how we approach a process. I'm not going to touch every single thing we do in every other webinar. I want to emphasize the capabilities that MatchIT component is adding to the integration process if you write an integration process using Magic-XPI. So this is the Magic-XPI Studio. In general, has a visual approach of drag, drop, and configure in order to interact with different application systems, servers, databases, and so on. We use these components and tools here on the left by dragging and dropping them onto the screen to add steps, to get information from an application, to set information in an application, and we do that using application functionality. And this is something we've covered in previous webinars, and you can find all that information on our website. The MatchIT component is part of the 65, maybe 67 by the last version components and adapters that we provide, which lets you write a process of integration. And this specific integration process that I'm going to show you integrates Salesforce to JD, and I'll explain a reasonable scenario. This is actually a project that we've written for a customer. And it uses the MatchIT in order to deduplicate records when it runs the integration, meaning when it reads information from one application, meaning Salesforce, and inserts them into JDE, the data needs to come clean without any duplications. So as Glenn was mentioning, and it's very important to emphasize this, MatchIT is a component like any other in Magic-XPI. The capability of that component is to find duplications based on fuzzy matching logic, based on pronunciation of words, addresses, and so on, as Glenn just mentioned. Now, if we use this component as part of the integration process, as part of the workflow that we build within the Magic-XPI Studio, we eventually get data quality solution or an MDM solution. So we use the component to build a solution. The component is in charge of doing the data duplication, and then once we get a clean set of data out of that component, we can decide whatever we want to do with it. Specifically in the project that I'm going to show you, we read records from Salesforce. And why do we do that? Let me explain the scenario that you're going to see. Salesforce is a CRM. Most organizations have one system to manage customers, CRM. It can be Salesforce, Sugar CRM, Dynamic CRM, Oracle Fusion, many other CRMs that are available out there. And there's another system, which is my ERP system, which is where I manage the organization, money, transactions, account receivable, account payable, and everything. And the need for integration comes where records are relevant for both systems. For example, if a salesperson went to I don't know, somewhere to meet customers, and he met some new prospect, and it's possible that that prospect will become a customer. He wants to have the capability of managing him, so he will enter him in the CRM system. Once the prospect became a customer, it's also relevant for the people who are going to be handling that customer money-wise, financially, sending bills and so on. So it's also relevant in my ERP system. So we build a scenario, and this is what we do in Magic-XPI. We build the integration process to sync Salesforce and JD. Now this is all stuff that most of you guys, I think, are already familiar with. This is what Magic-XPI has been doing for the past almost 15 years and been doing it very well. The new capability of having MatchIT in the process lets you read the records and clean them between Salesforce and JD. And why is it relevant? What happens if I send two salespeople, or just by sheer coincidence, people are doing cold calls, and two salespeople were talking to the same customer, and both of them are creating them as an opportunity in Salesforce. Later on, when the opportunity becomes an actual customer, in JD I only want to have one record. I want to make sure that the data comes to JD not as two different customers, but as the same customer. Now if I try to create the customer with the same name in JD, I'll get a duplication error in JD. But what happens if they are not spelled exactly the same? There are times where I have spelling mistakes. So someone entered the customer called, let's have a look at my Salesforce. Someone entered the customer into Salesforce called, for example, Mr. E. Simmons, where another person who also talked to the same person called him Errol Simmons. Simmons and Simmons are spelled slightly different, but there is a possibility that I'm talking about the same customer. So I want to be able to compare the records that I'm going to read from Salesforce before I enter them into JD. And I want to be able to do it not just on the name, but I want to be able to do it on each individual object that I know about that customer, meaning address and so on. So if I look at Mr. E. Simmons and I can see the address information where he lives and where he works, and I compare it to Mr. E. Simmons, if I look at it, I can see that it is the same person because they work at the same company, even if the company is spelled a bit different. Or the billing address is quite the same, it's just I wrote the name of the street a bit different. But it's clear that it's the same person. How do I do it automatically? I want to be able to compare account name to account name, billing to billing address, company to company. I want to be able to compare all of those separately, get a matching score, and if the matching score is high, meaning this is in fact the same person, I want to be able to write a process of how to handle the specific process, the specific person. So if I'll go back to view all my accounts, those are my MatchIT accounts, which I'm going to read. As you can see, I have 10 records, and in fact I have two duplicates. Errol Simmons is Mr. E. Simmons. Mr. Matthew Casper is Matt Casper. And even though they are spelled a bit different, I want an automatic process to be able to catch them before I write them into JD. I want the data in JD to be clean. I want JD to be my master data. And so I use a MatchIT component before I write the information into JD. If we look back at the process here, we first of all compare the records and clean the records, then we write them into JD. And as part of my integration process, I'm not only writing into JD what I get out of SharePoint, I also send an email and write into SharePoint what are the duplicate records that I receive, just so that I will have a way to handle them. So now that we understand what the process is going to do, I'm going to start it. And remember, as part of how you are, the capabilities that Magic-XPI provide, you can have the matching on a set of records, meaning I can read an already existing set of records, 1,000,000 records, and compare each record to each of the other 1,000,000 records that I have in my database and fetch the duplicates and decide what I want to do with them. I can do it as the data is entered, because when the data is entered to Salesforce, an event can be triggered, or into JD, an event can be triggered in Magic. So I can immediately take that record and compare it to all my other records. And all those capabilities come as part of what Magic-XPI is already providing. Those are the things that all Magic-XPI users are already familiar with. It's just that they have the additional capability of comparing. And it's very important to emphasize again that the comparing of records is done in memory as soon as the first record is read. So this is the way that the Magic-MatchIT component was created. We start loading records into an in-memory buffer the seconds we get the first record from Salesforce, and we compare them in memory. This makes the comparing process extremely fast. It's already done while I was talking, of course. The records were added to JDE, the duplicates were sent by email to me and to a SharePoint location. This was already carried out in the backend because it's all done in memory and very fast. Just to have a ballpark figure, with an 8 gig RAM server, which is not very big these days, 1,000,000 records were compared in 1.5 minutes. Let me take you to my email just to show you what I'm talking about. So I got a couple of emails. One of them is the list of duplicates, where I can see that Mr. Errol Simmons and Mr. E. Simmons are kind of a duplicate. This is their matching score. And their matching score is part of the documentation that you can see in the MatchIT component. What is a matching score? What is a high matching score? Basically, it's 80, just so you know. Everything above 80 is a match. And this is all done based on past experience. Matt Casper and Mr. Matthew Casper were also caught, and this is their matching score. And what about the rest of the records? I had 6 more records. Those were created in JDE, and I got their JDE address books. So just to show you, I can copy this number, go to an address book revision in JDE, paste, do a find, and see that that record was in fact created in JDE, but only the clean records were created in JDE. If I go back to my email, I can see that only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records were added to JDE, where 4 others were considered duplicates. Now, what do you want to do with duplicates? You want to enter them anyway, enter one of them. How do I know which one of them should I enter? Maybe it's based on the salesperson who wrote them. Maybe it's based on who's more accurate. How do I know? So as part of the process of data cleansing, we allow human intervention, and for that we did the SharePoint part of the project for that customer, where we created an integration duplicates list in SharePoint, where all those records are also visible, Mr. E. Simmons and Mr. Errol Simmons as a match. And what this lets us do is create a link directly to that specific account in Salesforce. I'll just click it and I'll go to it, and then I can decide to delete it, to change it. Is it in fact a duplicate? What do I want to do in order to reprocess, and so on. So, as anything else in Magic-XPI, we provide components. We provide the logic, a very easy interface to a very crucial piece of logic within your process. And then it's up to you to write the process. How do you want the process to behave? Do you want to read records from Salesforce? Do you want to read it from a database? Do you want to read it from JDE? What do you want to do with it? Clean it automatically? have a human intervention step where all the records are that were found as duplicates will be processed by someone? Do you want automatic process? What's the score that you want me to break duplicates based on, and so on. So all those capabilities are easy to do in the Magic-XPI Studio using the new component of the MatchIT. Now I want to show you the MatchIT component and talk a little bit about the capabilities of the MatchIT component. I'm using it here in a local studio because the studio that I showed you before is the actual one that runs the project, that server, and I don't want to touch the code there. So this is the MatchIT component, and this is a different process, just a demo process that I wrote for myself. Again, fetches records from Salesforce. It doesn't do anything in JD. It just calls the MatchIT component with a few different sets of capabilities in the MatchIT component. There are a few things we can do in the MatchIT component. For example, we can add records in a method interface, which is something available in all of our components. Add more data. This is a method in MatchIT that I can add as many records as I want before I start processing. Of course, as any other component in Magic, I can take the MatchIT component, and as I was saying before, change the interface into XML. Click Configure. Fetch the data not from JD, but say from a database. Let's use a wizard to fetch records from a database for a sec. So I'm selecting from a table called A. I'm selecting all the different columns, clicking Next, Finish, and I can map. And I can see all the different capabilities, all the different methods available in the MatchIT component, like add data, apply settings. How do you want me to parse the data? Do you want me to clear the data? Do you want me to clear past results? Do you want me to review errors because I can write an error mechanism if something happened, and so on. So I want to add those records. So I just add those records into the different nodes of the MatchIT component. And so basically read up to, as I was saying, there's no up to, there's no limit. It's all done in memory. The bigger the memory is, the higher the capabilities are. But I can read, say, 1 million records from a database, load all those records directly into the MatchIT component, and eventually get a result of all the duplicates. And I can get the result in many different ways. It can be directly into a database again, which will have the duplicates or only the clean data or both. I can create a flat file that will hold that data. I can create an in-memory array that will hold that data, and so on. So all the capabilities are available here, and you use them as part of writing your integration process. And as you can see, it's like all our other components. It's a drag, drop, and configure methodology of development, and you use it in kind of like a Visio approach, where you say, if an error occurred, then do that. If not, then do that. And so on. So that's it about the MatchIT component. I'll be glad to answer as many questions as you have. Back to you, Glenn.
Great, thank you very much, Or. I really appreciate that look there at MatchIT, and we invite those of you listening to enter your questions into the Q&A or chat box, and we will be happy to respond to any questions you may have. So we'll give you just a moment to go ahead and enter in any questions, and we'll be happy to respond. Okay, I have a chat question here. Which applications can you use MatchIT with?
So, as I was saying before, MatchIT, it's not, you're not obligated to use in one application, another application. It's part of a process. You use one component to get from whatever application you want. You can use whatever application whatever component to get information from whatever application you want, and then use the MatchIT in order to clear the data and to send it to whatever application you want. And it doesn't have to be an application. It can be just even a homegrown application with a database or just an EDI file.
Okay. How does it compare with J.D. Edwards business rules?
It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with JD business rules. it has its own matching capabilities. The business rules in JDE are, for example, indexes on a table. When you want to create a new address book, you write into FO101, and then on that table you have an index, which means you cannot create duplicates if the name is the exact same thing. But what if it's not the exact same thing? What if it's spelled a bit different? Then JDE will let you write it. The MatchIT component will find that match even if JDE wouldn't.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see. Here's another question. Do you connect to an address validation service or published zip postal address from the Postal Authority? So like the USPS National Change of Address service.
Yeah, we have that capability. We actually have a project like that deployed for more than one customer. It's a simple web server, and it's a good question because it's part of a data cleansing process in general. Say I cleaned the data from duplications, but then I wrote the address wrong. If I'll enter the record into JDE with the wrong address, when I'll send a bill or when I'll send an invoice to a customer and the address would be wrong, I would lose money. So it's another step of cleaning the data, of making sure the data is correct before you, for example, enter it to JDE. So we have the capability of, we actually did it in two different ways for two different customers. One, we actually used the US Postal Service web server in order to identify if the address is correct or not, and another one we just used Google, which is also a very powerful tool just to enter they provide a REST API where you send an address and they give you back is the address something that Google is aware of or not, and that one is free, which is also pretty easy to use.
Okay. Just looking to see if there's any other questions coming in. I don't see any. So what I would like to do at this point is thank each of you for joining us, invite you to contact us with any follow-up questions or inquiries at info@magicsoftware.com if you prefer to contact via email, or you can certainly give us a call at 949-250-1718, extension 259. We'll be happy to help you out with whatever your current project or interest may be. So thanks again for joining us. Thank you very much, Or, for a great job there on the demo. And
thank you.
We look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.